What is going on, guys? In today's video I will show you the top 10 best upcoming builds in Path of Exile's 2 new update. So 0.3 has brought massive changes. In the latest patch notes did shake up some skills, item and the class balance, and while some builds are stronger than ever, now also others have fallen behind. No matter if you're planning your next setup, looking to crush endgame content, or just curious which new builds have been created and will dominate the new meta, then this is the video for you. And before we continue, thanks to U4GM, they are a pro website that provides POE2 services like cheap currency, then even to buy, sell or trade, all kinds of top quality items and gems for real money and much more. They also have more than 20,000 positive comments on Trustpilot, and this website is really worth a try. So make sure to use my discount code KAID for extra 6% off. So kicking things off at number 1, we got the Chaos Stormweaver build. This one is the perfect fantasy of a Chaos sorceress, so unpredictable, restless, and finally viable thanks to the buffs to push Chaos damage into the spotlight. Chaos has historically lagged behind the elemental archetypes, but in 0.3 it finally gets some respect. The scaling is stronger, the synergy with Infusion Remnants is clean, and for the first time we're seeing Chaos builds with real staying power. Stormweaver in particular thrives because it does not need elemental damage to generate or consume remnants. That means you can focus fully on Chaos scaling without feeling like you're missing a part of the system. The big headline here is the return of the mana stacking Stormweaver. In patch 0.1 and 0.2 this was a nightmare to build, gear was rare and absolutely expensive, but now in 0.3 the mana gear is not only cheaper, but more widely available, so the barrier to entry is lower. You still need investment, so don't get me wrong, but it's no longer out of the reach for the average player. The downsides are still there, you're heavily gear dependent, crit scaling is tough because you're starting from such a low base, and you're not going to match the sheer projectile spam of the 3 elemental versions of the screen spreading clear of the Contagion Lich. And on top of that, the Witch might end up with a stronger Ascendancy path for the Chaos, which could make this Sorcerer version like a side build. But the new Ascendancy buffs gave it enough juice to earn a spot on this list, with the Arcane Surge now offering more cast speed and the Chaos scaling backed directly into the mana nodes. This build feels finally viable instead of just starved. Then next we got the Bloody Blood Mage build. This is a setup that's gone from interesting experiment to a legitimate powerhouse. In 0.2 the Blood Mage was a quirky league starter, you could make it work, but it wasn't top tier. But now in 0.3 the new Ascendancy changes flip that script completely. The big improvement here is padding. Before you had to choose between notables like the Crimson Power, Southern of the Flesh and the Grasping Wounds. You couldn't have them all without wasting points. However, now you can. That means crit chance, the raw damage and the life scaling all stack together, transforming the Blood Mage into something far scarier than before. The fantasy here is simple but effective. Your life becomes your weapon. Every spell you cast and every crit you land is fueled by your health pool, and in return your health keeps growing because the Ascendancy rewards you for leaning harder into that team. The result is a playstyle where your damage and survivability scale together, making you tankier the more aggressively you play. However, there's one drawback. The overflow cap has lowered from the 2 times to 1.5. That does tone down some of the craziest scaling potential, but this build is still stronger, more consistent, and still plenty dangerous. What makes it so appealing is that it's accessible. It does not need insane gear to get going, so you can pick it as a league starter and start farming red maps right away. And unlike most other starters, it actually stays strong deep into the endgame. Coming in at number 3 is the Spark Stormweaver build. Now this one is a full Chaos DPS build, and I mean it in the best way possible. Spark has always been flooding the screen with bouncing projectiles, and with the new infusion system in the 0.3, it gets reimagined as a multi-elemental powerhouse. Instead of committing to just one element, the Spark can now embrace cold, fire and lightning simultaneously. Combine that with the elemental exposure curse, which lowers resistances for all elements at once, and you've got a storm of spikes, hitting enemies with 3 different damage types, while keeping them permanently debuffed. The playstyle is exactly what you'd hope for, so pure speed and pure chaos. Sparks will zip around the battlefield, bouncing from the enemy to enemy, while you sprint and reposition to stay ahead of the fight. The new sprint system also feels tailored made for the Spark build, letting you dart through the packs and keep your screen flooding projectiles active without ever breaking momentum. It doesn't have the single target punch of some other builds on the list, but for the sheer map clearing speed and the effects, the Spark Stormweaver is a blast. Next up, we got the lightning arrow deadeye, and listen, if you love bow builds, then this is the patch where your time has come. Lightning arrow has always been about chaining projectiles across the screen, and in 0.3 it's smoother, faster and more satisfying than it's been in years. The deadeye ascendancy brings everything this skill needs, so projectile speed, accuracy, crit scaling and the chain mechanics that turn a single shot into a screen wipe. With the new animation and the weapon swap improvements, bow builds will finally feel fluid instead of clunky. You fire once, arrows scatter like the lightning, and the whole packs are gone before they even reach you. This build is not just about clear speed though. With the right setup you can swap into the focus shots that handle single targets without breaking a stride. The deadeye's toolkit keeps you mobile and in control, while the lightning arrows chaining keeps you safe by deleting enemies at range. And thanks to the sprint mechanic, repositioning mid-fight is sharper and more responsive, so you're always one step ahead. Lightning arrow deadeye is flashy, fluid and deadly, and if before this build was great, then now it's truly broken. Next up we have called Invoker build, which has gotten a solid boost in the new update, especially with the new I am the Blizzard Ascendancy node, by giving you a 10% increased cold damage and the chilled ground effects. This makes the Ice Strike and the other cold skills more reliable for both clear and bossing. The main idea is to freeze or chill enemies while walking through the packs, by creating a slowing field that gives you control over the movement heavy fights. The build synergizes well with the new increased chill effect from the passive nodes, letting you manage dangerous maps more easily. Then gear focuses on spell damage, cold damage and the energy shield, with evasion for defenses, while Jevels add faster cast speed and the magnitude of the elements to increase the freeze chance. For bosses, combining the Ice Strike with the support gems that enhance multi-stage freezing will allow you to apply sustained crowd control, while keeping the damage very high. The Cold Invoker will thrive because it can deal reliable elemental damage while maintaining mobility, and the 0.3 changes make the freezing even more punishing for the enemies. Overall, this build is excellent for players who like kiting and controlling enemies, while dealing massive cold damage without needing to be in the melee range. Next up we have Skeletal minion infernalist build, who benefits heavily from the new patch, thanks to the improvements to the spirit generation and the minion damage scaling. Infernalist ascendancy nodes will now allow skeletons and other minions to generate spirit more efficiently, ensuring consistent skill uptime and a higher damage output. The build focuses on summoning skeletal warriors and mages, using them to tank while supporting the player with the secondary elemental or the chaos spells. Gear prioritizes minion damage, increased energy shield and resistances, while Jevels and the passive nodes will improve skeleton survivability and the damage over time effects. The 0.3 changes also improve minion AI and padding, so skeletons will stick to targets more reliably and apply crowd control more consistently. Weapon swap setups will also offer chaos or the elemental damage over time abilities to maximize synergy with the minions. The build excels in both mapping and bossing, because it allows the player to stay at a range while the minions do the frontline work. With the latest changes, the Skeletal Infernalist is highly versatile, fun to play and effective in extended encounters. Next we have Thorns warbringer build, who got big improvements, specifically with the Anvil's Fate node, which now makes the armor breaking stacks easier to maintain. The core of this build is using high armor and the block to reflect massive physical damage by scaling with the Thorn based items and passives. Mobility is supported through the warbringer specific movement nodes and the gear bonuses, allowing you to kite enemies efficiently, while maintaining constant Thorn damage output. Our defenses will focus on high armor, energy shield and evasion, while Jevels add additional Thorn damage and the physical damage mitigation. The new changes also improved synergy with the block and the counter mechanics, making the build more consistent in both maps and the boss fights. With careful positioning, the Thorns warbringer can clear groups without actively attacking. Weapon and shield setups also emphasize passive Thorn boosts, increased block chance and life on a hit or regen effects for sustain. Overall, this build is great for players who like tanky, reactive playstyles. It will of course cost you quite a lot of gear to shine, but once you invest enough, then you will become godlike. Then next we have Chaos Minion Lich build, who now dominates thanks to improved synergy between the Chaos damage over time effects and the Lich ascendancy. Minions will now reliably apply Chaos damage and benefit from the damage over time multipliers, making them extremely OP. The build revolves around summoning minions like the mages or the skeletons, while amplifying Chaos dots with the curses, auras and the jevels that increased element duration and the magnitude. Gear focuses on the minion damage, Chaos damage, energy shield and resistances, with weapon swap setups totems, often including chaos dot spells, to trigger additional effects like the Wither or the Blight. As I mentioned, Season 3 also updated, improved minion targeting behavior and sustain, so minions will stay engaged longer and deal higher consistent damage, which is crucial for prolonged boss fights. Players can focus on positioning and spell support, while minions output massive chaos damage, giving the build excellent survivability and control. Defensive layers include energy shield and evasion, while passive nodes improve minion health and damage. Then for one of the last ones, we have the Fire Pathfinder build. This one focuses on mobility and high burn damage. Incinerate is a channeling skill with 8 stages, each increasing damage at max stacks, and applying fire exposure to shred enemy fire resistance. Pathfinders running Assault Node and mobility support will allow nearly unhindered movement while channeling, letting you to fly across maps while keeping the full stacks active. The Black Flame Ring will convert ignites to chaos damage, enabling Wither from the rain of arrows to stack chaos damage effectively. Then the Ball Lightning with the Lightning Warp will create shocked ground, which also further boosts your damage against bosses. The new changes in POE 2 improve channeling mechanics and the element scaling, making mobility while channeling smoother and ignite-based damage more OP. Incinerate now scales more reliably with the hit modifiers, which synergizes with nodes that increase damage with the hits or elemental elements. On top of it, gear focuses on high spell damage wands, plus fire damage, Black Flame Ring for the chaos conversion, and quivers or the bows for the rain of arrows. And now finally we've come to the last Totem warbringer build, which has been refined since the previous leaks. The build now reverts from the ancestral warrior totems to the shockwave totems, due to endurance charge requirements. Also, Ascendancy buffs grant 5 totems and 5 spirits instead of 4, with instant spirit summons and the stronger minions. Defensive adjustments will include wooden wall damage absorption, block chance recalibration, and a 30% damage penalty from the block hits, balanced by the life regeneration via the Rise of the Phoenix. Shockwave totems will now scale from equipped weapons instead of the flat base stats, compensating for the gem nerfs and enhancing early game effectiveness with the dual maces. The jagged ground support no longer applies directly to the totems, but can be triggered via the skills for the high damage scenarios. Then, the resolution technique now doubles accuracy rating, maintaining a reliable hit chance and much more. The Giant's Blood will have the life granted from their strength, but will remain manageable. And lastly, the deepest tower items are disabled, but the build still remains strong without them.